Robert Branson of the Virgin Group has come out to explicitly blame lack of government support for this latest move by Virgin Australia. But at a time when we're hearing IATA coming out earlier to say that it expects passenger revenue to drop half from last year, government support, would that have made significant difference at this point?
It's hard to tell because the function, and I've told a lot of people this, the longer the pandemic goes on, the worse it's going to get for a lot of airlines. I mean, it's already bad enough for the entirety of the airline industry. So if you get, if they bail them out now, it's going to give them a little bit of a life extension. But what happens if the virus continues to travel around the world and continues to hammer the world, and then they need another bailout and another bailout? So a lot of it is a function of time. It's not a financial matter, it's a medical matter, and how long the pandemic goes on.
Well, the fact is, many governments, certainly the U.S. government, but not Europe, has in fact stepped in to give explicit bailouts for the airline industry. In the U.S., it's $2 trillion. Europe is turned into individual carriers appealing to their individual national governments. Do you think there should be a more uniform plan that organizes this slightly better?
It's hard to coordinate. As combating the pandemic has shown, there's really a lack of worldwide coordination on this. You've got the WHO working, you've got the United States doing different things, so there's actually a lack of coordination among that. And I have to commend the International Air Transport Association, headed by Alexander Dejuniak. They are doing a very good job at trying to do just that. They're trying to coordinate the restart, if you will, of the airline industry. They have been also trying to I'm trying to find the right word. They're pushing governments to come up with packages of tax relief and different things like that. So IATA, which is the Global Airline Trade Association, they've been trying very hard to coordinate that, but it's difficult when you're trying to coordinate with national governments.
All right, I'll pick up on a point you made earlier, which is even if you get a bailout, it's just a life extension. When you've got one of Europe's biggest airlines, like Lufthansa, permanently reducing its fleet and warning that there will be permanent damage to the aviation industry, because IMF came out earlier last week saying there'll be permanent damage to most economies even into 2021, assuming there's recovery from COVID-19. For the aviation industry, what are we looking at?
Well, I think you're going to see, and this came up on a webinar, which is the communication means du jour in the aviation industry. Everybody's doing webinars. But this came up in a webinar the other day where people were talking about what's going to happen to these airlines. And one of the participants in it said you possibly could see some nationalization where Germany's not going to let a national carrier like Lufthansa fail. China is not going to let some of its airlines fail, because airlines, state flag carriers, are points of pride for these countries. Part of the problem is, and you see this in America, airlines may not be, if the state aid comes with the government taking a piece of the action, getting equity in the airline and basically nationalizing the airline. Some airlines don't want to do that. Some airlines in a country like China, for example, they may have no choice. But in the United States, for example, they may have a choice, and the airline will say, fine, we don't want your aid, we're going to try to do it on our own. So the nationalization of airlines is a distinct possibility in the future.
Thanks very much indeed for that. Matt Driskill, editor at Asian Aviation.